This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Hello, Alex.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, I think.
Yeah, lunchtime here, so
Lunchtime.
happy
Okay.
lunch.
So happy breakfast.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I am very well. And yourself? Looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, I am. I'm super tired. I feel like I've been busy on the go all the time. I had a message this morning going, I saw you were at an event. And I was like, actually, I've been to a lot of events recently. You have to be a bit more specific. Like, which event? Which is not normal for me, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's,
you usually have an event and then take some time between each event.
yeah, 3 months, 3 months break. Anyway, and it made me think about being specific because a lot of our clients that come to us are not specific enough about their target audience. And one of the ones that have come up 3 times, really interesting, 3 times over the last 3 months has been, I want to target lawyers. And so I thought, well, why don't you and I brainstorm it? Because we wouldn't accept that as a target audience from a client, right? If someone came and said, my target audience is lawyers, we'd be like, well, that's a bit better than everyone.
Yeah.
It's better than everyone, so it's a start, but there's still some more we can do, right? So I thought, why don't we brainstorm it and you and I can help refine it and see if that helps anyone who wants to target lawyers.
What's the product or service? Do we know?
I think I'd rather not say.
Okay. We
Um,
make one up.
well, let's say it's a tech service.
Okay.
Yeah, so a SaaS software for lawyers.
Like an
Maybe
SMS service, do you mean?
no.
Oh, you mean like a text writing service?
No, not text. Tech.
Oh, tech. Oh, I heard
Tech.
text. Like, what? Okay. Okay.
Okay, I can see we have to be a bit more specific, right? All right, let's go with um
What
oh,
about contract drafting tech? I don't know if it's even a thing that exists, but
and every lawyer I know will say no, but okay, let's
so
let's just go with
I
that.
don't really know anything about the lawyer market, so I don't know what lawyer tech is.
Mm.
Um,
But anyway, I think the whole point is we don't need to know anything about the lawyer market. That's our client's job, right? Our client's job is to understand their product and
mhm.
understand how
No,
they
that's
help the
yeah,
lawyer.
that's what I was referring to. I was like, I couldn't give an example of a piece of tech that's specific for
Specific for
lawyers.
lawyers.
Yeah.
Uh, I suppose, I mean, if you just think generically, as in any small business, lawyers must have um, marketing software, right? They must do some marketing. Well, some lawyers do marketing, so they may have a CRM system, or they may have, oh, like the tool you and I used for a while, which was about time
Hmm.
logging software, so that you can schedule your billing for clients.
Yeah.
Or, so yeah, I mean, they're still businesses. The fact that they're lawyers is is an aside. So how about that?
Hmm.
Time logging software for lawyers. Let's go with that.
Okay. Um, I guess there's a lot of reporting tools as well, right?
Reporting. Yep.
Reporting. And sorry, I've just cheated. So there's some of the top lawyer techs are AI tools, online file storage, word processors, um, document management, time tracking and billing solutions. There you go. E-discovery tools.
Security, right? Like
Yeah.
when we worked with security
Research
everywhere.
tools.
Mhm.
Research tools could be a good one.
Okay, all of it is irrelevant to our conversation, but okay.
But you know who we are. We need to know.
We're nosy. Okay, we
Security and ethics.
we went down a whole rabbit hole now because we're nosy that way. So back we come. All right. So one of the niches that this fictitious client has chosen is lawyers. Where would we start?
Um, well, I would start with understanding what the pain point is for the customer.
Yeah, that's it. What is the pain point you solve, right? What's keeping them up at night? What are they thinking of that you can solve? More simple stuff before we get into the in-depth emotional stuff for me would be, is there a geographic limitation? Are you face to face only, so it can only be in the area where you live? Or is it UK law based? So, there's a UK limitation, or is this a global reach or language barriers, or like what's the geographic spread
Yeah.
of this target audience?
Yeah, so I guess we're just sort of breaking down who is that target audience. We just need to start with, who is not, who is already excluded from our list of potential customers. So,
Absolutely.
so let's start with accessibility, like you're saying, accessibility to your service or product. Should we just make an example? So they only, for some reason, only accessible in the south of the UK.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be stuff people haven't thought about. So there may be, restrictions because you only have a pound ability for people to pay in pounds. So it may not be a restriction that you've put on yourself, but it could be a physical restriction that you've created with the system that you've chosen, right? That
Yeah.
it only shows up in pounds, and people often don't like paying out of their currency because they feel concerned by exchange rates, etc. Or if it's a physical product, perhaps there'll be export duty or things like that to think about. So I think geographic, although it feels quite simple, and especially people in the online space always go, "Oh no, anyone." There may be other concept, language. If your website is English and everything you do is English, you've created a barrier, right? You've created a not list. Is anyone who doesn't shop or read English or want to purchase in English.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our first question is the knots. Who does this not apply to? Therefore, who's left? Um, and why? Next.
Yeah. Yeah, then I mean then I would try and understand, so once we know what are the benefits, what pain are we solving, we can then exclude people who currently do not have that pain. Maybe there can be certain types of firms. There could be, maybe you could be excluding one man, two band firms because, well, uh it could be because they don't necessarily need that quantity of automation or whatever it is that the tool is
Yeah.
doing in that point. It could also be the budgetary financial value. If it's a subscription based thing that actually costs £1,000 a year or something, and a one man band might not feel like that is valuable enough for them. So we can start looking at the actual service, what it's solving, the cost of it as well, if and who does that fit, who fits within that pocket.
So you had two things in there, which I think were great. The one is around size. So
Hmm.
very much can be related to your service, but could also be related to just the size of business you prefer working with. Some people are there for SMEs, one man bands, etc. Or you may be targeting B2B only. You want the bigger business and lawyers, solicitors can be a firm. Is it a firm of solicitors or is it the one man private solicitors? So that's, I think, also an important considerator. When you say
Yeah,
lawyers, where are you? And then
yeah,
your second point that I thought was really good was the financial limitations. Again, based on the price point that you have, is there an affordability level that one man, two man bands won't generally be able to afford this service, or the other way around. Your law firms of 1,000 people, so your international law firms or things like that will have their in-house team doing it,
yeah,
whatever service this is, and therefore won't even be on their radar.
yeah.
So
I just think the affordability one actually is often overlooked, I think,
yeah,
because you can waste so much money on an audience that will just never be able to buy it. As much as they show interest in it and much as they take your free trial and everything like that, at the end of it, they just won't be able to afford it. And like take an example of um, like HubSpot, for example, it has quite a good free trial,
yeah,
but the once you start buying the more contacts and getting the paid versions, it can suddenly get quite expensive quite quickly. So that, just that as an example, is probably not a great option just to be targeting one man bands. For that, you'd want to be targeting businesses, I don't know, like 10 people or more or something where it makes a lot more sense and you have a higher revenue. I
absolutely.
just wanted to focus a bit on that because I often see that problem.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. The one I see people make a mistake on is size, because a
Hmm.
one-man band doing everything um, may not necessarily want another tool to
Yeah.
add to the arsenal, or it depends on where they are. But on the other hand, a team, you need to start thinking more about, well, who is the buyer, right? So if you're looking at, and we're working with law firms now. So if you're looking at a law firm and you've got this tool, the scheduler tool we spoke about, or whatever it is, okay, who is the buyer? Do they have the bigger the firm, the bigger the company, the more procurement services processes they're going to have, right? Of maybe RFPs.
Hmm.
Maybe you have to now be part of a panel. They may do a lot more checks on your credibility and your history, etc. And so it may take longer. What is the length of time it will take to get in there? So I think the size is also one people, don't really consider in terms of their targeting because the approach is different.
Hmm.
You wouldn't necessarily go to the owner of the law firm of 100 lawyers. They'll have an HR manager if that's the deal, or an IT manager, or they'll have different people looking at different things. Whereas if it's a one-man band, that's the everything. So you go to them.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. And maybe, I mean, I've lumped it under size, but maybe it's a fourth point, which is buying process.
Yeah, that could also. So you mean you're in that one that you're referring to the
Whether it's a procurement process and they've got official RFP forms for you to
yeah.
fill in, or whether it's,
Yeah,
just
the buying process. Who you speaking to has the pain point, or they may not actually be the
this.
decision maker in terms of the purchase, and someone who actually makes the purchase versus the person who then says yes or no. It can also be a different person to who you actually have to get get the financial sign off from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So making sure you understand that process in your target audience is key. I see this in insurance as well, right? People want to approach big insurance companies, but don't take the time to understand
Mm.
that differentiator between the user of the service versus all the different decision makers
Yeah,
to even get the option into the business.
yeah, absolutely. No, that can be a very difficult one, especially if you're providing uh, a service. Um, as you, a lot of the time, you need to be certified by the business, right? You need to
Yeah.
go through all of the checks.
But I
Um,
think it's worse if you've got a tech solution because the bigger the firm, the more they're worried about,
mm,
you know, about your security
vulnerabilities.
and vulnerability and will you let hackers into the back end and whatever. So,
Yeah.
I mean, not that we shouldn't all, no matter how big or small you are, be worried about that.
Yeah.
But generally, the bigger the firm, the more they are worried about security and
Yeah.
vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Um, okay, so we've got so our exclusion list is now what have we got for our exclusion list? We've got size, we've got affordability, we've got buying process, we've got
Geographic.
geographic sort of accessibility, I guess, to your product or service. Um,
What else?
but I think that's a good starting point. I think that would be a good starting point to say, okay, well that's actually excluded quite a lot of people. I can now see who is still left in that in my bucket of people.
Hmm.
And now you can really understand like why do they need it?
Yeah,
Why do they need it? So let's say, for example, um, if it's a large firm and it's a way of kind of if your tool was to be a central tool, let's say a central documentation tool, whatever it could be a great way for keeping things consistent and having a single point of view across everything that everybody's doing, so that people aren't running around with crazy different Excel sheets and things like that. But
yeah,
that could be so in that case, it would be well, then that means we need to be working with people with teams who have
yeah.
multiple teams.
So now you're matching the need.
Yeah, matching the need with the characteristics of the company.
Yeah, I like that. So that's a good one. The other one I thought of as you as you were talking is even if in lawyers, which is our current example, there's types, right? So you have business lawyers versus criminal lawyers
Yeah,
versus so so with that need, it's also to look at if there's further segmentation around the types of business. I mean, in your example, maybe there's not, but in other solutions that you provide, there may be a different need for a business lawyer versus a criminal lawyer versus whatever, right? So
yeah,
the types under that broad topic of lawyer,
yeah. And I guess also just to sort of add to that is commercial versus public lawyer,
yeah,
because they're going to be having different requirements, I guess, like B2B and B2C, in terms of the interaction they're having with people, public, GDPR and stuff like that. There'll
yeah,
be slightly different um, requirements from that side.
yeah. Okay. So now we've got an even smaller pool. The next thing I would focus on now is where are they looking to satisfy this need? What are so it's, you're almost into the game of what are your competitors, right? So, for example, in the tool we're talking about right now, the easy competitor is Excel, isn't it? You could be doing
Yeah.
this in Excel already.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just going to jump. I was waiting, but I think maybe this could be a good part to put in your nail in the foot versus pebble in the
Pebble.
shoe. So, is this an obvious uh, problem, or is it something that? It's just an annoying part of their job that they didn't realize there's a solution.
Yeah.
So, so it's kind of like basically understanding if you need to go through a huge education phase or not.
Yeah.
Just jumped ahead a step, I think. Um, but it could be important just to um, understand that approach, basically.
Agree. And ties in actually with my point on competition, not necessarily who else is in competition with you, but what is in competition to fulfill that need,
Yeah. How are
right?
they how are they executing that task or whatever it is that they have to be doing?
Because it
Current.
could be manual, could be they use Gmail scheduling tool, could be Excel, whatever it is, but you kind of need to understand that because that's no
Mhm.
one, people struggle with change. So anything you're putting into the business means a change to the current behavior, right?
Yeah.
So you
So you
need,
basically need to just draw a picture of currently what is happening right now so that we can then illustrate a comparison between the two instead
yeah.
of just saying I've got this tool that will do this blah 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 blah. These are all the features instead of saying you know what you're doing right and understanding exactly what they're doing and go oh that is actually me, that is what I do, and they say wow, I know, I've been there, I've done that, and I've invented this tool and it takes this from 1 hour's job to 5 hours job and sorry 5 minute job. That would be terrible. It takes it from 1 hour to 5 hours, from 1 hour
Well,
to 5 minutes.
it
uh,
depends. If you could bill for it, then maybe a lawyer will be fine
yeah
with
maybe yeah
that.
yeah
Billing
yeah.
time will increase. Well, that's another important one. It's what are their priorities, right? Because if their priority is to increase billing time rather than decrease billing time, I'm being nasty to lawyers now, but if that's the priority, then actually a time-saving tool may not be high on their list of priorities. There may be other things that are more important to them, right?
Yeah, although they would, but then they could just say okay then we've got more time to do more work but we'll still bill the same hours.
But then you need to explain that.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand the current priorities. I went through this with a
Mm.
customer who is looking at sustainability, anything in the sustainability space right now. And that's the problem with a lot of businesses. Is sustainability is there. It's not even a pebble in the shoe. It's a leaf on a roof somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's that far away.
Leaf on a roof.
It's if you leave it there long enough, it's going to rot and eventually clog up your drain pipe or whatever. But that could take 100 years to happen, right? Like it's that's sustainability for some businesses. But and so understanding what the priority is so that where your message will land is really important.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
Cool. And what I liked about what you said about what they're currently using, and then you gave that example, is a lot of what we're doing here as we drill down further and further into this niche of ours is we need to get the words right.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we're talking to them must be in their
Yeah,
words.
language.
And if you're talking, I don't know, lawyer words, so we're probably not the right people. We need to get a lawyer on to come give us some lawyer words. But if you're talking scheduling, and scheduling isn't the word they use, maybe they
Mm,
use another word, billing, or I don't know what it is. But this is where you have to
yeah,
really know the right word because that's the word that's going to break through their auto filter, right? And
which
make them
comes,
pay
which,
attention.
yeah, which I think which is really important for, like, for example, when we've done workshops with clients and we've done those workshops purely to really understand the business, the people who are working in there, what their processes are, so that we can pull out terminology that they're familiar with, become them, so that they
Come the
recognize the
client, yeah.
person they're speaking to.
Absolutely. And back in the sustainability space, I was talking to someone the other day who was using um, net zero, right? Net zero as part of the pitch to a potential client. Net zero for them had a negative connotation because it felt like government legislation.
Mm,
Carbon neutral, which is the same thing,
hmm
was a much better terminology because
hmm
net zero had it's a law, right? It came across very negatively, where carbon neutral was soft. So it could be those kind of subtle differences that you need to get to with this target audience.
Absolutely. Words are incredibly important. And the formality and informality of it. Maybe if you're speaking to lawyers, sorry if not every lawyer is like this, but I'm just going to stereotype you guys, sorry. But maybe more of a formal language rather than an informal language, like selling something to children, to like, I don't know, young kids, like vaping or something. You have pretty cool language. But with tech for a lawyer, then you'd want to speak in a way that they relate to, and I guess that would be in a more formal manner as well.
Mm.
So not just the specifics of their processes, but also the tone as well.
Absolutely. And with that, is any value adds? And I don't know lawyers that well, but is there any accreditation like CPD points or because they've gone through training, it's a professional accreditation, etc. Is there a value add that they could look for that you can number one, stand out from the crowd if you're in a sea, you know, you the training for your software tool is CPD accredited and therefore you also get CPD points like I don't know, I'm making it up now, absolutely. But it's that kind of add-on services to help them meet their deeper goals as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, um, and perhaps from the other side as well, them achieving something. So if it's a cybersecurity product, for example, you if you can have some kind of accreditation which they can then apply to themselves, saying we are certified, as in like super
Mm.
security certified. So it's not just necessarily the actual service that you're providing or product, it's also a stamp of uh, approval, certification, reliance that will then help their end customer look at them with a different light.
Oh, I like that. I think that's a great idea. Awesome. Okay, so I think we've unpacked this really, really well without knowing the product, which is like really, really
Yeah.
awesome, right? But we've come up to such a really clean niche, haven't we, in terms of
Yeah.
this lawyer clients. We know who they are, where they are, how they speak, what their need is, what type they are, if this is a nail in the foot or pebble in the shoe pane, any additional add-ons that will add value, their priorities. We've got their buying processes, their size, geographic location, and affordability. And
Well, I think that's a pretty good start to creating a picture of who you will be targeting
without a product.
with that product.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think that's a really good example for anyone who wants to do lawyers. Make sure you go through all these steps, but actually for any target
Yeah, I
client.
was going to say that that's actually pretty applicable across everybody. In fact, I think that's applicable across everybody. I think you can use that method of thinking across who no important not it's not important. Sometimes I start mixing Spanish things with English these days. Quite annoying. It doesn't really matter the industry or the client as long as you're having that critical thinking
Yeah.
of what your capabilities are, what your capabilities of your the characteristics of what you're selling and the characteristics of your business and how they match with the characteristics of the other business. Drawing that picture will help you across whatever industry you're working in.
Yeah. And I think it'll also help those who have a disappointed look when they tell me they want lawyers and I still say it's not enough. It's definitely better than saying
Yeah,
everyone. Okay. So, but you get a prize for not saying everyone,
yeah,
but there's more to do. If you really
yeah.
want to hone your message, if you really want to get clear on how you help and who you target, there's
Mhm.
more to do. So,
Yeah. And I guess also just a way of maybe helping somebody to think or to realize that there are different types of lawyers. I mean, I've been working with lawyers recently, unfortunately, with the situation with my apartment, which went in flames.
yeah,
But going through that process, I realized there's a hell of a lot of different types of lawyers, and not only different different industries like criminal, retail, or property or anything. With it, so within property, there's still a load of different types of lawyers, which means that if you as a customer have to sift through different types of lawyers or whatever to find the right one who's specific to you, that means that if you're selling something to a lawyer, you've also got to understand that, use that example, as there's going to be a huge number of people that you different types of lawyers that you can that will be interested in your product because they have different expertise, they have different ways of working, they have different setups, they may be more online or they may be more offline, they may be more old school, they may be more new school. There's huge varieties of different types of businesses and people within one industry.
absolutely. And the more you know, the more you hone, the better your message will be. And you don't have to pick one. You can pick three or five or seven, but understand that the message to each will be different,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you,
Exactly.
you need to do the drill down work on each one.
Yeah. So I guess also it's like we're not saying like no, you can never target these people. Da, 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 da. You can target whoever you like as long as you have the right product and service for that type of person
And message.
and message. Yeah, exactly.
Message. Brilliant. Awesome. Well, that was fun. We haven't done a joint target market identification for I think almost a year now was when we did our last one. So that was fun, Alex. We have fun doing that.
That was good. I enjoyed it. I was a bit panicked at the beginning when we didn't have a product.
It did feel weird, didn't it? But
Did feel weird.
actually, we didn't need a product. We
Yeah,
still
it only
got
felt weird
it.
because normally we have a product, and so this
Yeah,
was just something new, but we adapted.
we did. Well, thanks for that. And we will maybe next time we'll try another target segment and see if it's the same questions.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. See you later.
All right. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.